All right, so going live. So today is going to be a practice with me session, and so I'm going to warm up, and then I'm going to focus on stick control, the advanced version with filler, which I'll include a link to, so you can see the sheet music for that. And then I'm going to learn how to do the float, flam, drag variations for 16th note grid, which I have never attempted before. So I'm going to show you how I practice and how I learn something. So the purpose of this practice stream and why I'm doing this is I want to encourage others to make music by sharing the raw processes involved with how I try and improve my playing, not just like the final take in like a recording session or something. So there's a tendency in the field of music for musicians to only share the end result and not the hundreds, if not thousands of hours of time that led up to being able to share that end result or that high quality product. So what I want to do with these sessions is show you everything, all of the good, all of the bad, and how I try and work through it. So while I'm playing, I will try and actually like communicate through the microphone, and hopefully it's set up so that the levels are good for that. But sometimes it messes me up when I'm speaking. So that's the plan for today. So warm up, advanced stick control, and then going to learn the float, flam, drag 16th note grid variations. So I'm going to start off by warming up with Schlitz and Giggles by SCV, and I will share the video, but you won't hear the audio. I'm going to play it through my earbuds, and the reason why is just because of copyright issues and whatnot. So let's do this. Hands are tight. It's okay. This is the warm-up. What's the point of this? Got off by a beat. I get some weird ads when I do this. All right, so I just pasted in the chat the link to the video I was playing along to. I'm going to play along to this again here in a minute. First, I want to stretch out. So this is the first bit of actual real playing today, other than just doing a sound test. So after I kind of get my hands going, I like to do a little stretch. So I start with holding my palms up, holding the sticks in them, and then I pull one arm in and push it under, and then follow with the other. And so this gives a good nice stretch. Kind of hold it there as long as I need to, depending on how tight I am. Sometimes I'll do the wrist rotation. I would do this a lot back when I would play traditional. Oops. Or even when playing like Stevens mallet technique. It's also a good one to just kind of stretch out that rotation. Okay, so now I'm going to stretch my wrists. I'm stretching the underside of my forearms, just kind of giving a nice gentle pull. Not doing repeated jerks or anything like that, just kind of holding it. Another way you could do this is actually going up to like your practice pad or even going up to a wall and just kind of doing both at the same time. My left side is tighter than my right this morning. All right, so now I'm going to stretch the top part of the forearm. And that's actually pretty good. The underside is what's tighter for me today. Every day it's different. It depends on what I do the previous couple days. Like for a workout or how much drumming or whatever. Okay, so next I like to stretch my fingers, and I'll do 2 at a time. So I'll have the thumbs pushing on each other, so they're kind of stretching each other doing this. It's like doing a really weird thumb war with myself. Same thing with the index finger. Ooh, good. Same thing with the middle fingers. Now, if you're new to my stream, I really try and focus on staying positive and kind of learning from any experience, ring finger. And so while you're watching this, I'm going to be messing up, and I'm going to be open about it and just sharing, hey, here's what I'm learning through this. Or like, hey, I'm nervous right now. True statement. So just trying to be as open as possible to show that, like, hey, somebody who's been playing for 20 years, more than 20 years, still gets nervous performing. It's weird, honestly, practicing publicly like this. It's new to me. A year from now, I'm sure I'll be more comfortable, but for right now, not so much. All right, so what I would like to do now is massage the forearm, just to loosen up things. And again, depending on like what kind of workout I've done, I might need to even like massage like the forearm or triceps, or sometimes even in the shoulders. Especially when I used to march, shoulders used to get pretty tight just from having a drum pushing down on them all day. So I'll do like this, and then I'll do with my fingers underneath, and it's kind of massaging here while my thumb kind of massages up top like this. Hopefully you can see that better. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. And by the way, if you're watching this live and you have questions, feel free to put them in the chat. Or if you just want to practice along, cool. All right, so next I like to massage the palm. So I'm massaging the back side as well as the inside of my palm, back side of my hand, inside. And then I go from the base of the fingers and massage to the tip. Kind of like pulling out while massaging around the fingertip. Just kind of helps loosen things up. And I usually do like 2 on each finger. And this for me is just my good way of warming up and stretching. What I'll often do, if like back when I used to practice like 10 plus hours a day, is I would also ice my forearms and wrist at the end of the day, just because the amount of inflammation that you get when you're playing, like doing all days in rehearsals, you really need to do something to fight that inflammation. Otherwise, you can get all kinds of issues like carpal tunnel, tendonitis, etc. But technique also has an impact on that. Okay, so that was the first part of the warm-up and the stretch. And now I'm going to play through this, same exercise, but I'm going to play it at 1.25 speed. So the reason why I do this after every time I warm up is I like to play outside of my comfort zone. And playing this exercise at 1.25 speed, I really have to be in a state of flow or really focused, or I'm going to mess up. So that's helpful for me, just kind of trying to get me locked in. But also, it's at a level where my playing, like if I'm not playing as relaxed as I possibly can, it's not going to sound good. So while I play through this, I will be primarily focusing on just staying loose. Messing up, getting lost in my head. Actually, I'm going to just leave that on the screen. Have some eyeballs staring at you. Okay, so the reason why I was messing up is because I got lost in my head. So what was actually happening was I was thinking, oh, what am I going to do next? And how can I communicate that in the stream? And so I got lost in thinking through those thoughts, and that is what messed me up. 1 second. So one of the things that I used to tell students and even staff members who worked for me was that like the majority of being able to perform well is mental. So by the time you actually get to a show day or a performance day or whatever, you have done the work, most likely, as a group or as an individual to be able to play well. At least in the groups that I worked with. We'd spend many hours working on something. And so the focus during show days was, hey, let's just get into a relaxed flow state and really just focus on our playing and not overanalyzing things. And so if your mind is going too fast, racing too much, then you can get lost in things, and then that's when you get the mistakes that I just had. Like I was saying, I have to be in a state of flow while I am doing that at that speed. Otherwise, my hands are going to tighten up, and it's going to mess some things up. Take a swig real quick while I stare into that lady's eyes. I think I should make that the thumbnail. All right, so yesterday I was playing through stick control when I was streaming this, and I was doing it with dynamics, and it didn't sound great. So I'm going to focus on that today and slow things down even more than I was doing it yesterday. So I was doing the dynamics around like 60, 70 BPM, and it just like, it was inconsistent, and the changes from high dynamics to low dynamics was sloppy. So there was a lot of like leftover where it just kind of slowly went back down, or I would do like a forte piano as opposed to having a distinct height here and then immediately going to the lower dynamic. So that's what I'm going to focus on. So the link to this is in the chat. So it's on my website. Nothing for sale in any of these videos I'm going to show you. All of these are free. So if you scroll down, go to stick control variations at the bottom. And then the one I'm going to do is the very last one, number 4, advanced stick control with filler. Will this video are millions? Oops. Okay, and I'm going to start at 40. All right, so I'm going to be focusing on dynamics while I do this. Starting low, going high for each measure. Really trying to make sure that I don't have like 4 tiers of dynamics, but every note gets slightly louder than the last one, as opposed to something like that, or this, and then 9, and then 12. I want every single note to be slightly louder than the previous one. I'm afraid I'm, excuse me. I'm afraid I'm going to hit my microphone, so I'm going to play a little bit lower. Too high. My first left was too high, that's what I'm saying. And then I messed up the height and the sticking. That was too high. So I need to focus on the left hand not coming in higher than it needs to be, but immediately picking up where the right hand left off, just a little bit higher. Inverted diddles. Okay, I'm going to stop there. So yesterday when I was doing this, on the inverted diddle portion in particular, at the very end, so I'd have that right, left, left, right, right, that sticking. I had a tendency of making the last right hand note, which is the first note of the third measure in that phrase, being a forte piano, so it'd be like that. That's the downbeat, as opposed to ending low like that. So this was a little bit better today. Maybe it was a fluke. We'll find out. But the hard part about it is that third measure in that last phrase. So where it has and then it ends low right there, as opposed to you're going. So it's a little weird. It's a little weird to not tighten up the fingers while you're doing it, but basically just letting the wrist stop moving without squeezing. So that's what I was focusing on. And then the other thing that I mentioned was like, I'd have like this big gap in the dynamics for where the left hand entrance on stuff like the four strokes. I need to drink some water. Something in my throat. All right, so I'm going to do this again. I'll do it at 41. Chop, 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 buffda. Thank you. Working on it. Starting low, getting high again. That was a little better about not making it tiered. Realizing that I'm tightening up a little bit on the higher dynamics, and now I'm trying to loosen up. These left-hand entrances are a little better. Let's see how it sounds on the fours. Much better. Little high on that one. And the release was a little high. When doing that, really focus on the left, the last note of the diddle, making sure it's a little bit higher. Oops. Messed up. It's hard to talk while playing this. So focus on these. All right, so like I was saying on this part, so when doing the diddles, so line 2 that you see on the screen right here, the second measure, it's almost like you're gonna feel like instead of doing straight rolls, like everything nice and even, it's gonna feel almost like you're emphasizing the second note a little too much. It's not gonna be that exaggerated, like doing that, but in order to get that continuous motion, where it's just going from low to high and making it as smooth as possible, it's going to feel like you're emphasizing it a bit much. That way you don't have this tiered approach of like 3, 6, 9, 12, something like that. Or like in the 4 phrase, you don't want to have 4 at one height, 4 at another height, 4 at another, 4 at another. You want to have 16 notes that are all different heights, all moving up. So that's what I was focusing on with that. So now I'm going to do this again, but I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Let's go with 45. And again, starting low, getting high with the dynamics, and trying to stay relaxed. I started that last measure a little high on the right. Notice I'm not looking down at my hands while I'm playing this. Really focus on listening. To the dynamic changes. Focus on the second note here. A little louder. That was better on my end. Didn't get high enough on that. All right, so overall, the dynamics are doing better than it was yesterday, which is great. We want to see this kind of continuous improvement. But sometimes in practicing, it'll actually regress. So it'll go back. That's okay. It happens. All right, so now I'm going to move it up a little bit faster. I'm going to try and get to the tempo range that I was in where it wasn't sounding great. But I don't want to get there too quickly. I have a tendency to not get the check for the 16ths on the triplets as loud as they should. So I'm working on that. It's really hard to talk. That one was a little better. Oops. So I added the forte piano at the end, which is what I want to try and fix. So I'm going to do it again, just one click faster. Sorry, I think I actually hit the microphone there. Hit something. I'm going to play a little quieter. Those were better. Got a little tight on those last lefts. A little high on the last note. Okay, I'm going to speed this up. Let's go 10 clicks faster. Well, 9, I guess. Rush that. So one of the things that I'm really focusing on while doing this is trying to make it linear. So over time, low height to a high height, I want it to be smooth transition. However, whenever I was working with drum lines, when we were working specifically on like show music and whatnot, not everything that you wanted to do was linear. Sometimes it was exponential. Sometimes you wanted to spend more time being quiet and then really scoop up at the end. So you might like do something like that as opposed to all just moving up at the same increment each time in between each note. So another way that you could practice this is trying to do different types of dynamics. So making it so that it looks like this, or even making it so that like you get loud much faster and then you kind of taper off at the end, or even going up and down or vice versa. So you could do like, I'll demonstrate this for this next one. Every measure is going to go up or down. So it's not going to just go from low to high at the start of every measure. It's going to, if it's starting low, go high, and if it's starting high, it's going to go low. So I'll demonstrate that and I'll speed this up a little bit. So 5 clicks faster. Check will start low. We'll get high at the end of the check, and then we'll get lower on the next measure and keep repeating that. Whoops. Almost played the wrong phrase. That's why there's a hiccup there. Another way you can work on that is you could do a whole line moving up in directions. So you could like etc. And then go down for the next whole 3 measures, etc. So many ways that you can actually work on this. Or if you're working with a line, you could have it so that one person, like the center, determines the volume. And so their goal is to incrementally get louder or softer, and it's up to them. And they can do it at any moment. As long as they're not like just immediately jumping from one to the next, but gradually getting louder and gradually getting softer and making it so that everybody else has to listen in. Either like you could have them close their eyes or even like look a different direction. And so that way they're only focusing on the ears and hearing the dynamic contrast. And so that's a really good way that you can work on balance as an ensemble. All right, I'm going to speed this up a little bit, and then I want to work on the float flam drags, which I've never done. So I believe yesterday I did this at 75 with the low to high dynamics, and that's where it didn't sound great. So I'm going to try this at 80 today, see if it sounds a little bit better after working on it. Played the wrong phrase. All right, so that was better than it was yesterday, but still stuff to work on, especially at the end of each phrase while trying to get the dynamics up, like on the left hand, like on the fours. It slowed down a little bit, so that's something to work on. So if I were to continue to work on this, I might slow it down a few clicks and then go up one click at a time until it starts to sound more comfortable. But I want to try out this other exercise that I've never done. All right, so the one that I'm looking for is under the 16th note grid and flam drags. Float flam drag every 5 notes. Yeah, so the one at the very bottom. Okay, so because I've literally never played this before, I only like wrote it out on Sibelius and just kind of exported it. I'm going to just kind of play through it just to figure out what the hard parts are and then kind of work through those before I sequence it all together. So we have... Oops. Okay, so this is the first measure I'm playing. Okay, so I'm going to do that again. Okay, yeah, left hand flam. All right, so the next measure. That was an interesting measure. Okay. First measure of the next line, measure 3. Ooh, the left hand diddle. I tried to do a Swiss sticking there. Okay, measure 4. Oh, high release. All right, so now I'm going to do the 2 pattern. So this is line 3 on here. Yeah, I thought I messed up, but I didn't. All right, let me try this again. Okay, so the next line is the same thing. Let's try... Oh, no, it's not. Oh, cool. Okay, now this is a really cool part. So because the accents are in 5s and the float flam drags are in 5s, like having written this out, I know that they like line up pretty cool. So here's the very first phrase of the 1 pattern. Here's the next measure. Here's the first measure of the last line. No flam on the last note. Okay, so that actually lines up with what you normally do with float flam drags, so that's pretty cool. And then everything else is a permutation of that. Oops. Okay, so now I'm going to attempt to just kind of play through it, and maybe I'll actually do it with the play along. It might be too slow. Yeah, too slow. So I'm going to go, I don't know, let's try 40. Might be too fast. Okay, so I've kind of figured out each phrase, so I'm just going to try and read through it now. All right, so that was cool. So I did okay with it. I'm going to try this again at 41, and then I might speed up a few clicks at a time until it sounds bleh. Ah. Let's try this again. Ah. Some of them just like cracked over on this side of the desk. Sorry. That was weird. Got distracted. Yeah, I really like that the one pattern on here. Okay, so it sounds all right. One of the things that I'm focusing on is trying to make sure that I'm just kind of pulling back the accents and not like forcing it into there. So that's what I'm consciously listening for while I'm doing this. Let's try a little bit faster and we'll see if I fall on my face. .45. We'll try going up 5 clicks at a time. As long as it sounds okay. All right, so a couple times now, that very first line when I get to like measures 2 and 3, I really start to get a little wonky with my playing. So I'm going to specifically just kind of sit here and work on that for a moment. So yeah, it's that. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna slow this down again. So I'm starting at measure 2. Now I'm going to start same spot a little bit faster. Oops. Okay, so it's a little bit better. See, I keep wanting to do that on the right hand. Excuse me, hiccup. Okay, so this is something that I do with when I used to work with drum lines. So we would go all the way down to 40 when working on something, and we would gradually speed it up. Sometimes 1 click at a time, sometimes 5 or 10 clicks, just really depending on what we were doing. And when we got to a point like this where like we found a consistent air, not just like a brain fart or something, then we'd like maybe spend a minute or two doing what I just did. Hey, practice on your own, try and figure it out what's going on with this. Ooh, blurry. There we go. So now I'm going to try it again, and I'm going to stay at 46 just to kind of see if at this speed I'm good, or if I need to still go 1 increment at a time before jumping up 5 again. Okay, so better overall on that first main phrase, the first 2 lines, but then the second portion, Alright, redo, mulligan. I totally lost my spot. Yeah. So when I went from one line to the next, I lost my spot and was doing okay, but was scrambling to find it and then messed up. Ew. hard to get back on. I clearly need to stay at this tempo range. I haven't earned the right to move up 5 clicks yet. Keep wanting to Swiss stuff. It's messing me up. Oof. I wanted to turn that into a book report. One of those. Paradiddle sticking. Water break. Or sludge break. Pureed salad break. Okay. First time playing through. Okay. I still basically having to sight read it every time, have only some of the patterns memorized, but this is a good way to kind of force your brain to think faster by just going up one click at a time and just kind of letting it do its thing. So I'm going to keep working on this one. I'll do it another day, but I want to finish. I like to finish doing some kind of a chop out just to get my hands moving faster. And let's go with, yeah, let's do this one, 421 Shopping Spree. So this is a fun one. I'm going to try and attempt to narrate what's going on while I'm playing through it. Let's start at 100. Okay, so the first pattern is a straight shopping spree. So flam drags, cheese, 4 counts of each. Flam fives. Here's cha-cha-chas. Inverts. 6 of them. Cheese cha-cha-chas. Cheese inverts, 6 of them. Chut cheese. Now you do 2 of each. Flam drag. Cheese. Flam 5. Chutta chut. Inverts, which put you on the left. Here. Cheese invert. Or chutta. Cheese invert now. Chut cheese. 1 of each. Cheese. 5. All right, so then the 0 is the same thing as the 1, so you're doing 1 of each rudiment, but there's no check in between, so you just do drag, cheese, 5, chutta chut, invert, cheese, chutta chut, cheese, invert, and chut cheese. Okay, so that's 421 shopping spree, and now I want to chop myself out. So I want to play it until I can't play it at that speed. So I'm going to go up like 10, 5 clicks at a time. Find my breaking point. There's my breaking point. Two. Oops. Here's the one. Zero. Okay, let's try 120. And by the way, if you click on one of the ones that's not divisible by 5, you'll go straight into it. And you want to have that little breather right there, which I'm using to reset myself. Alright, 130. There it is. So far doing okay. As I get faster, I need to lower the heights a little bit. So instead of playing it like 3 and 12, do like 9 and 12, 6 and 9 and 3, 6 and 3. Trying to stay relaxed. Camera's blurry. Sorry. Okay, camera's not blurry again. Good. Slurred that out. One of those left fiddles. based on that, we'll see how it goes at 150. Slurred out the right diddle. Second one. Well, the first right, but second diddle. It's hard to jump back in right there. Trying to stay relaxed. It's hard. Too many notes. My left. Just for funsies, let's try it faster. Alright. By the way, the reason why I'm doing this is I want to gradually speed up my hands over time, and I want to give my arms a good workout. And so I like to do this at the end of practice sessions, just like push myself beyond my limit to the point where it sounds bad, because eventually it will sound good because it'll become the new normal. Like the thing that I warmed up with Schlitz and Giggles at 1 1/4 speed, that sounded terrible the first time I did it. Not that it sounded great now, but it sounds better than what it used to. So, over time. All right. Those chut cheeses. Okay, most of it was okay. It's just those chut cheeses on the second page. I'm gonna try faster. My hands just lock up. Gotta stay relaxed. That last chut cheese. Alright, actually better than I thought it would be. I'm going to do it just for fun at 170 because I want to just completely break down. Gotta remember to breathe. I was working on with a student one time, and we were playing something really fast, and they forgot to breathe while doing it, and they like literally started to fall over. I happened to be like standing right in front of him while working on this, so I was able to catch him, but he would like literally passed out while playing. So make sure you breathe. All right, I found the breaking point. That's for sure. The inverts were like little bunny foo-foo with my arms. So I'll need to work on the 170 inverts another time. All right, well, that is my raw and open practice with me. I hope you got something out of this with sharing what I'm working on, how I work on it. Next time I practice, I will work on that float flam drag grid variation, because that one's a weird one. But anyways, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you stay tuned for another session at another point in time. Maybe tomorrow. I don't know. We'll see.